Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to Shloka Day. Today's Shloka is Shloka number 9 of chapter 12. So when we did Shloka number 8, we started a new section of this particular chapter where the Lord talks about the progressive stages of bhakti coming in a descending order from the top to the bottom. And this particular section displays to us how the Lord is so munificent, because even though he says the highest way of worshipping is to always think of him, he comes lower and lower and lower to capture as many souls as possible in this process of transcendental following that we are all undertaking. So in Shloka number 8, the Lord has said, just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. So both your mind and intelligence should be dovetailed with performing Krishna conscious activities. Thus you will live in me always without a doubt. So that brings us to Shloka 9 today. Atha chittam samadhatum
Atha chittam samadhatum
na shaknoshi mayi sthiram
na shaknoshi mayi sthiram
abhyasa yogena tataha
abhyasa yogena tataha
mam ichchaptum dhananjaya.
mamichhaptam dhananjaya.
Word for word meaning, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Atha,
Atha,
if,
therefore,
chittam,
chittam,
mind, samadhatum,
samadhatum,
to fix,
to fix,
na, not, shaknoshi,
shaknosi,
you are able, mai, upon me, thiram,
sthiram, steadily,
abhyasa yogena,
abhyasa yogena,
by the practice of devotional service.
by the practice of devotional service.
Tataha,
Tataha,
then,
mam,
me,
me,
ichcha,
ichcha,
desire, aptum,
aptum,
to get, dhanam jaya,
dhanam jaya,
O winner of wealth, Arjuna.
O winner of wealth, Arjuna.
Translation. My dear Arjuna,
O
winner of wealth,
winner of wealth,
if you cannot fix your mind upon me,
if you cannot fix your mind upon me,
without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga.
then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga.
In this way, develop a desire to attain me.
Develop a desire to attain me.
So Prabhupada has written a short purport for this particular shloka. Practice sadhana bhakti or abhyasa yoga. So the Lord is talking about practice, which means if we don't have the ability to naturally think about the Lord every day, every single second, every single minute, then we have to practice to get there. So if we don't have natural love for the Lord, where we will always be thinking about Him, then we have to follow what is called sadhana bhakti. It is also called abhyasa yoga. In this verse, two different processes of bhakti yoga are indicated. The first applies to one who has actually developed an attachment for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by transcendental love. And the other is for one who has not developed an attachment for the Supreme Person by transcendental love. For this second class, there are different prescribed rules and regulations one can follow to be ultimately elevated to the stage of attachment to Krishna. Bhakti Yoga is the purification of the senses. At the present moment, in material existence, the senses are always impure, being engaged in sense gratification. But by the practice of Bhakti Yoga, these senses can become purified. And in the purified state, they come directly in contact with the Supreme Lord. So the process to get to pure love for the Supreme Lord is to follow certain rules and regulations established for us by acharyas. In this material existence, I may be engaged in some service to some master, but I don't really lovingly serve my master. I simply serve to get some money. And the master also is not in love. He takes service from me and pays me. So there is no question of love. So essentially, Prabhupada is saying, in the material world, when there is a master-servant relationship, it's not being performed out of love by the servant for the pleasure of the master. There is a financial aspect that is there in the picture. So if the master is not happy with the servant, he can fire the servant. If the servant feels the master is not paying him sufficiently, the servant can fire the master and move on. So there's no question of love. But for spiritual life, one must be elevated to the pure stage of love. That stage of love can be achieved by practice of devotional service performed with the present senses. So whatever we have been already given by the Lord, we have to use all of that in the service of it, including ourselves. This love of God is now in a dormant state in everyone's heart. And there, love of God is manifested in different ways. But it is contaminated by material association. Now the heart has to be purified of the material association, and that dormant natural love for Krishna has to be revived. That is the whole process. So Prabhupada is telling us, all of us actually have love for the Supreme. We just have to reconnect with that love. That love is covered by many layers of conditioning because of many births that we've taken. So essentially, we've forgotten Krishna. And the Guru comes to remind us and to connect us back to Krishna. To practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, one should, under the guidance of an expert spiritual master, follow certain principles. One should rise early in the morning, take a bath, enter the temple, and offer prayers and chant Hare Krishna. Then collect flowers to offer to the deity, cook foodstuffs to offer to the deity, take prasadam, and so on. All these activities are Krishna conscious activities. So how every little activity in your life can be connected to Krishna is what Prabhupada is explaining very nicely in this purport. There are various rules and regulations which one should follow. And one should constantly hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from pure devotees. This practice can help anyone rise to the level of love of God, and then he is sure of his progress into the spiritual kingdom of God. This practice of Bhakti Yoga, under the rules and regulations, with the direction of a spiritual master, will surely bring one to the stage of love of God. So at the same time, Prabhupada is explaining to us, this is not something that we should be practicing on our own. We should always be under the guidance and under the protection of a bona fide spiritual master. Because the servant-master relationship has to first be established with Guru. If we don't learn how to serve Guru with faith, with humility, with submissiveness, how are we going to go to the spiritual world and learn to do that with Krishna? So first of all, we have to practice here on this earth, completely surrendering to a pure devotee of the Lord. Only then we can learn what it means and understand what it means to be completely surrendered to the Supreme. So essentially, Shloka 8 was talking about spontaneous devotion. There are some jivatmas who have spontaneous love for the Lord. But if we don't have spontaneous love, then His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says in his commentary here on this shloka that we have to learn to cultivate conscientious devotion. That is called sadhana bhakti. When we read in the scriptures about exalted devotees who spontaneously love Krishna, we as aspiring devotees naturally long for such spontaneous devotion. So, in our heart of hearts, all of us also want to have spontaneous devotion for the Lord. But we don't have it. What can we do? But the Lord is so sweet. He says, take a spiritual master and follow his instructions. Practice sadhana bhakti. Follow his instructions. And we may sometimes relish moments of intense devotion when everything other than Krishna becomes pale and stale. So, I'm sure many of us, as we were watching the Prana Pratishta ceremony in Ayodhya, we would have had tears in our eyes when we saw, when we took darshan of the Lord for the first time. So, sometimes we have these feelings of intense love and connection to the Lord, but it lasts for mere seconds. But with a pure devotee, they are always in ecstasy. They are never cut off from Krishna. However, to our dismay, such moments end all too soon. Worse still, sometimes in a matter of moments, we find ourselves entertaining immoral and anti devotional thoughts. So, our process is a little bit weak and subject to our own emotions. So, sometimes we have unhealthy thoughts, even though we may be chanting, even though we may be listening, even though we may be waking up early in the morning, still somehow or the other, unhealthy thoughts are entertained in our mind. Such a roller coaster of emotions shouldn't discourage us. It should prepare us for the conscientious cultivation of devotion. So all of us will experience ups and downs in our sadhana. Sometimes we feel deeply connected to Krishna and deeply close to other devotees. Sometimes we feel completely disconnected from Krishna and completely disconnected from devotee association. So the Bhagavad Gita in this particular shloka 9 indicates that if we are unable to immerse ourselves in Krishna, we should execute abhyasa yoga, the practice of deliberately and determinedly fixing the mind on Krishna as a discipline. Essentially, we have to reprogram our mind. Our mind is too used to doing whatever it wants. So, through the process of sadhana bhakti, you're reprogramming your mind to direct its attention always to Krishna. By this, the verse assures desire for him will grow, thereby making absorption in him easier and sweeter. So, even though we may experience frustrations sometimes in the path of practicing bhakti yoga, still we should not give. We should be determined. We should be fixed up. We should have faith that the process will eventually work for us. Such conscientious devotion may not seem particularly exciting. The problem is, sadhana bhakti may seem boring. Oh, I have to get up early in the morning. Why is it I'm not able to jump out of bed even before Brahma Muhurta starts? So we get frustrated. Why is it that I'm not able to pay full attention to Krishna when I'm chanting my 16 rounds? So nothing seems exciting. Everything seems very mechanical. Why not just anticipate the moments of spontaneous devotion whenever they come and be satisfied with them? So sometimes we may fool ourselves into thinking, whenever I have joy and love for Krishna in my heart, let me be happy with that. Why should I go through all this rigmarole of waking up early, chanting, offering flowers to the Lord, doing Mangala Arathi, offering bhoga to the Lord? Why should I do all of this? Certainly, we can and should anticipate and relish those moments. But if we are to move steadily towards Krishna, we need not just occasional moments, but perennial momentum. So, just experiencing love for Krishna once in a while is not going to be the goal for us. We have to experience this love for Krishna perennially. Without a steady devotional momentum, our default sensual momentum coming from our past conditionings will slow and stop us. It may even make us take a U turn away from Krishna towards sense objects. The biggest danger is if we feel sadhana bhakti is too boring, it is too much of a struggle for us. Let's just wait for whenever Krishna reveals himself to us. Then the problem is that it will take you away from Krishna. In a heartbeat, Maya has just tricked you saying, wait for Krishna to come to you. Why are you in a hurry? That's Maya's way of tricking us. To sustain a consistent spiritual momentum, we need to practice conscientious devotion. Though struggling to drag the mind away from worldly things is not pleasant, fixing the mind on Krishna is pleasant. Increasingly pleasant as we change our attitude from resenting the struggle to relishing the struggle. It's such an important point that His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu is emphasizing here. Oftentimes we get frustrated, so much so we begin to hate the process itself. We feel, why am I struggling? Yeah, I might not be pure. I am so fallen. So why should I even bother? Krishna doesn't want me. That is why I'm struggling so much. All these thoughts may go through our mind. So Prabhu is saying, instead of resenting this struggle that we are experiencing, we should relish the struggle because we are fighters, knowing that it is the only way to genuine, spontaneous devotion. And when our willingness to struggle for devotion becomes spontaneous, our devotion will soon become spontaneous. So the struggle should be spontaneous, and then the devotion will also become spontaneous. A couple of other points that I got from Prabhu's other commentaries. There are a lot of commentaries that Prabhu has written on this one shloka. I'm just picking up some key points from other commentaries. The sole price for attaining Krishna is desire. If we have a deep desire and greed for attaining Krishna prema, then it doesn't matter whatever struggles that we go through. So that intense greed is necessary. Laulyam api maulyam ekalam. This is coming from the Padyavali, shloka number 70. Remembrance of Krishna is the ultimate superfood. It increases our spiritual energy by strengthening our attraction to the eternal divinity and decreases our material vulnerability by shielding us from worldly desires and distresses. So, Krishna is so merciful and so generous with us. He says, ideally you should have spontaneous love for me because I'm your master. But never mind if you don't have spontaneous love. Then why don't you just follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga? In this way, Krishna is saying, you will definitely develop a desire to come back to me, to love me, without motivation and without interruption. This sadhana bhakti has to be performed to achieve that goal of Krishna prema.
If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the bell notification. If you'd like to join our classes every day, please check the details in the description section of this video. We look forward to serving you.